Hi, everyone. My name is Mike, and this is my one of my first videos. It's live, so that I don't have any editing, and you know that it's right from my heart. I don't want it. I want it to be polished. I want you to enjoy it. I want it to be viewable because I have a message of health, and it's important to me not to see people handicapped before their time. And people have been really suffering for the last 3 years, and so I just wanted to start this out because it's a great forum for me um, to get out the message of the freedom of movement, the freedom that regular movement can bring, and eating real food, and um, doing things the right way. Is and I'm not perfect. I'll never express to be perfect. I'm a definite work in progress, and I want to share a little bit of that with you today, because I hope it'll be uplifting for people. People can change, right? And this pandemic that has occurred over the last 3 years has changed a lot of things and a lot of people. Some for the better, some for the worse. So we're going to end on a positive message as always, and that's my promise because I want everybody to be acknowledged. I want them to be educated and uplifted from watching this. I'm going to try to do 2 to 3 episodes a week, and if not more, once I get more accustomed to the processes and everything. I'm just an exercise guy. So I don't have a lot of tech savvy experience. I built a website, but it wasn't with HTML. It was just click and, um, experiment with the buttons through Wix.com. So we talk about God here. This is Mike's Kitchen Table. So I'm not afraid to talk about politics and God, but it's mainly going to be about health. We have no choice to intervene politics and health, and that's unfortunate today. Um, and we absolutely need to speak about God and how His message is woven throughout, and how we can become better people, happier, and more content with trying to live His message. So, energy. That's kind of my specialty. So, without further ado, let's get into what's at hand. Talking about real food energy. Yesterday, I was visiting and got a question from a gentleman that was in his 30s, and he said, "Mike, what is real food?" And I was counseling him on problems that his children were having, and I was taken back a little bit that his question was legitimate. He didn't know what real food meant, and so I kind of thought that was basic and something that I didn't need to tell to talk about, but I think I do. The prevalence of craft foods and other food manufacturers trying to manipulate, redesign, re-engineer foods. Some people, that's all they have had, and so they really truly can't differentiate between um, real organic food that God grew or made, and food that man got his hands on, manipulated it, packaged it, colored it, added to it, taken things out of it, replaced things, and all with the audacity to increase profit, increase sales without looking at how it affects our health. And you can rest assured they probably have some people there to see if the food's not acute poison. If you take a bite and you foam at the mouth within seconds or minutes, you can easily draw a conclusion that maybe it was food poisoning. But if you take packaged or processed foods that are advertised as an alternative and maybe healthy and kids love it, but it slowly destroys you. And maybe it takes 10 years off your life and doesn't let you live optimally. That's what I want to fight against. So, real food is, to me, it's pretty simple. And I'll try to be as simple as I can because that's the best way to convey information. Real food is simply food that you can identify that God made, that's here on earth. It comes in, frankly, two forms: meat, animals, and plants. Animals and plants. So, an animal, we eat the muscles of animals mainly. We eat other internal organs as well, especially other cultures may as well. Different nations may have different cultures that they have traditions that, for example, they make kishka in Poland with the pig. It's blood sausage. They use intestine for the wrap, and I think it's pretty darn good. Um, but mainly, in when you go to the grocery store and you buy a cut of beef or chicken, pork, fish, this is the flesh or the muscle of the animal. Okay, so that's what you're buying, and you come home and you cook it. As long as you cook it by, say, pan frying it, oven baking it, I suppose microwaving as well, if you choose. Those are ways, obviously, to cook those foods, and if you present them on your plate, you can still identify that this is a piece of pork, a piece of chicken, or um, beef, or trout, shrimp, what have you. If I now loaded that, let's talk about a piece of chicken or a piece of pork. If I loaded those foods up with man made sauces and covered them, if I can't tell that there's pork underneath that or chicken, it's probably not a healthy alternative because that sauce or that glop that you put on there is probably laden with fat. That's probably what holds it together. And the sweetness, if it's sweet at all, it's going to have some sugar substance in it. And my point is go ahead and try to find that glob in the garden. You won't be able to do so. So the other side of the coin, plants, and that's pretty darn simple. Look at your garden. Look at beans, broccoli, carrots, onions, asparagus. There's lots of different broccoli, cauliflower, whatever uh, vegetable you enjoy. It pretty much looks the same in the garden as on your plate. And as long as you don't laden it with things to cover it up that you can't see the vegetables underneath, God bless you if you use tons of seasonings. A lot of fresh seasonings really is helpful for our gut biome and digestion health, feeling healthy. A lot of these seasonings and different spices come into play. Having said that, it's important to try to get different types of real foods as well, different types of animals. Animals, the muscles are protein. That's the main content of what makes up muscles. But a chicken is going to have different types of amino acids than a cow, than a pig, than a fish. Hence, this is why it's real important to get different types of animals, a variety in your diet, so you get complete proteins and a complete sense of nutrition. So, real foods are foods that comes from an animal. The meat is cooked, the muscle is cooked, and it goes on your plate. You season it however you want, but I would caution you with using man-made seasonings such as ketchups, barbecue sauces, mayonnaise, and so forth. You know, I'm sure a little bit is fine. You know, God knows I love flavor. Um, but the less man-made substances you put on your plate, the better off you'll be. In fact, I'm going to tell you how important it is. A gram of fat has 9 calories. A gram of carbohydrate has 4, and a gram of protein has 4 as well. A gram of alcohol has 7. So fat is more than twice as expensive calorically. It has twice more than twice the amount of energy as protein or carbohydrates. And we know this because when we burn it, we figure out how much heat it gives off, and that expresses it. We measure heat in terms of calories. That's how food scientists know how many calories are in a piece of steak, how many calories are in a piece of um, broccoli, or how many calories are in a potato. That's done um, with burning these foods to see how much heat they give off. And I can tell you this, that the foods that we have now, that let's take an ear of corn. This is a perfect example. An ear of corn today, you know, if you're like me, I'm gonna use this. You're like this. I can't. I'm like a typewriter on steroids when I eat a piece of corn. I don't eat all that often, but oh my gosh, put one in front of me that's um, that has the different colors. I can't remember it's white and yellow corn. It's just so incredibly good and sweet. But you have to realize when that corn was originally introduced, before food scientists started to implement engineering to it, it was not 3 pounds for an ear like corn is today. The kernels were smaller, they were not as dense, and most of all, it was not even close to as sweet as it is today. It's really hard to get away from sweetness and sweeteners and artificial things, even if you're trying to be healthy. A good example is um, uh, many of these diets that are called health diets, and maybe they're promoted by a physician, and um, they might have you drink something green, something natural, something with a bunch of vegetables blended in. That's all great, but got to be careful because I have not, and I'm just turned 57 2 days ago. Knock on wood, I've never had a headache. So take care of yourself. But I've just turned 57, and I've never come across a diet that doesn't have either a central nervous system stimulant built into it or caffeine, which is another stimulant. So I don't think caffeine is horrible. I don't think central nervous system stimulants are all that horrible either. But I think that if you're going to project that natural foods is good, and you're going to try to compare natural foods, real foods, with processed and man-made foods, I wish that I could actually compare these diets better, because they all use some form of a metabolism accelerant to promote weight loss, fat loss, if you will. And I think it's quite misleading, because I know this. You know, you can get all of these specificities of, you know, calories per gram of fat, calories per gram of protein and carbohydrate. Um, it takes 0.83 calories to burn um, a liter of fat, um, and 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 all of this. You know, my macronutrient percentage, the how much protein I eat, is 35%, and my diet's better than yours because my diet is scientific. I eat 35% protein. Yours is unscientific. You eat 33%. We're into all these comparisons. Macronutrients, by the way, are the three types of foods that we can eat: carbohydrate, fat, and protein. Now, foods can be one of those, or two of those, or all three of those. So combinations and such. So those are the three different things we can have. And for years, diets, whether they're local diets or national diets, worldwide diets, they can profess different macronutrient percentages to be enlightened and so forth, and universally apply that to all ethnicities and cultures and people groups. I don't think it makes much sense. I had a diet I'm going to introduce on this channel uh, in a while. It's going to be forthcoming. Um, but I've worked on it for about 20 years, and I took it from the American Diabetes Association. I revised it and kind of made it my own. Uh, I've been using it successfully with people for 20 years. However, in the last 3 years, I completely revamped it completely to where it's a very new ingenious system, and I don't want to get into details right now. But I took out all the, even though it was made by the American Diabetes and National Academy of Nutrition, they still had cookies, cakes, and ice cream in there, and all this processed food, pizza, and polyunsaturated fats. And so um, at this channel, my research, I'm an exercise physiologist. I just have a bachelor's in exercise science, but did a lot of work with metabolic testing and so forth. So I've had work as a physiologist. So I'm a physiologist. um, and I've had to deal with a lot of nutrition stuff as well, because you can't eat you can't exercise all of the excess that you eat. In other words, to be fit enough to mitigate overeating, that's not possible. A month ago, I showed my buddy a video of a track athlete, an Olympic medalist, and this guy was built like a brick, and muscles all over. He was real impressive. He looked like a bodybuilder, only he's an indoor track cyclist. So aerobically, he's just a stud. And what his mission was to ride a bike. They had a bike hooked up to a toaster, and he was supposed to produce enough power to make a piece of toast. How many calories in a piece of toast? Maybe 70 or so. It takes about 700 watts to brown a piece of bread, and it has to be done for what, a couple of minutes at least. We've all put a piece of toast in the toaster. Well, this guy pedaled this stationary bike that was heating up this toaster, and he got done. He did it. The toast was very, very light brown in the end, and he was he felt sick. He was so exhausted. He felt sick. He had to lay down. He was just a physical wreck when he was done, but he made a piece of toast. The amount of energy uh, to make that toast was ridiculous. And so you have to harken back to the fact that, if you overeat, um, 200, 300, 500, 1,000 calories a day, you're not going to be able to exercise it off. It's not possible. And these effects are cumulative, unfortunately. But fortunately, exercise is accumulative as well. The effects of exercise is accumulative, so the regularity of your exercise sessions builds that um, cumulative nature into it. It's much more powerful to walk around the hill every day than rather than up it 3 days a week. Much more powerful, and that builds behavioral habits as well. So anyhow, getting back to energy and the focus, and this is where I want to kind of um, wrap this up for the day, and tell you that after 20 years of working on this diet, and after reviving it, and looking at the format of it, and it puts foods into categories based upon its macronutrient percentage. So and it's very ingenious that way. It automatically keeps track of how much you eat, um, in calories and so forth. It's very ingenious. I'm going to share something with you. I'm going to try to get this diet out to people. There will be a cost to it. It won't be expensive at all. But I'm going to tell you that you don't need the diet that I'm going to be promoting forthcoming videos. You don't need it. Not very good marketing, is it? But I don't care. I fear God more than I fear YouTube. Um, and so what I want to just tell you is, when you eat real food, when you don't put the products that man has manipulated in, and that includes ketchups and barbecues and mayonnaises and such. When you eat muscle and plants, meat and plants, you don't need to worry about how much you eat, nor do you need to worry really about what kinds of foods you're eating. How many, what your macronutrient percentage is, in other words. Again, variety is the key to the spice of life, is variety. And you get much more nutrients that way. But the miraculous thing is, you don't have to suffer from obesity. You don't have to starve yourself. Eat till you're full. That's how God made us. Our metabolisms get all screwed up with metabolic syndrome when we get so used to eating man-made food that our addiction centers in our brain are all messed up, so that we are now conditioned to overeat, and it's probably almost always going to be carbohydrates. We're going conditioned to overeat, and the withdrawal of that feels like hard starvation. And that's one of the reasons why the obesity epidemic is just, it's out of control. In 2015, I went down to a health club conference, sponsored by the National Health Club Association of America or something, whatever the acronym is. And being in the industry, I used to own a health club. Um, I was blown away. They said that there's 30,000 more health clubs. This was in 2015. And so they said, in the last 10 years, so 2005 to 2015, there's been, in the United States, there's been 30,000 additional health clubs built, or opened. 30,000. Unfortunately, the obesity rate is not getting any better. The Centers for Disease Control now puts 2 out of 3 people in the overweight mark. That's having a height weight ratio of 25% to 30%, or BMI, it's called. 36% of America are obese, and that's creeping up too. So with all the exercise, with all the health centers, health clubs opening up, 30,000 in the last 10 years alone, You combine that with the existing health clubs and divide that by 50, the number of states. I think people are, seems like they would get plenty of opportunities for exercise. And that's considering that you think that you have to exercise at a health club and you don't. It might be fun to see people, it might be fun to show off if you're already fit. It might be great for encouragement and to be not sarcastic. But you have to drive to it. There's inconveniences with changing clothes and so forth, and um, you got the membership fees. You got the time away from your family. Lots of things you can do to work out right here at your home, at your job, and we're going to talk about all of that at this channel. Talk about God and politics at this channel as well, because we can't escape politics with with the focus of health, because the politics in this country and frankly around the world is intricately and unfortunately woven into health. And I spent 2,000 hours researching COVID, and so much so that I started to get recruited for speeches by the Republican Party, and that spurred me on, inspired me to do even more work with COVID research. And then everybody started running away from me. They didn't want to have anything to do with my speech because they're in fear of the government. I fear the Lord, not the government. I'm accountable to God, not Joe Biden. And I want to share my expertise, my 57 years headache free, to try to get healthy and happy. This is always going to end on a positive message. So today's positive message is this: with all the internet diets, all the internet programming, it's really hard to lose your focus and say, I don't know what to do because there's a million diets that are in front of me and I'm just so confused. When you go to the grocery store next time, pick out meats and pick out vegetables. Hang out, stay at the perimeter of the grocery stores where the produce and the meat sections are. If you eat dairy, I don't have a problem with that, although dairy can be an implement and cause inflammation. I happen to enjoy milk quite a bit, so I just want you to be aware that milk does and can cause inflammation, but I suspect it's from the hormones that man has been putting in the feed, putting in the milk, and so forth that is causing this, not coming from God. So the message here today is go to the store, eat real foods, put down your calculator, put down your serving sizes, and just eat. And by the way, if it's 7:01 p.m. and you're hungry and you're going to eat real food, please do. Don't starve yourself after 7 o'clock. I feel so sorry for third shifters who maybe are influenced by people who maybe work in healthcare, or maybe they work outside of healthcare, or maybe not at all, and they've read and they're adamant that one of the things that you can do to be healthy is just don't eat after 7 o'clock. Well, that's great for people that plop down after work, get out a bunch of snacks, eat snacks for 4 hours, and then go to bed. I mean, tons of people do that. But that's wrong on a variety of issues, not just snacking for 4 hours. It's the type of snacks. It's the fact that you're sedentary. It's the fact that your eyeballs are watching a screen for 4 hours. And by the way, sitting quietly with your eyes closed burns more calories than watching television. And it's negligible. It is not going to make you lose weight. TV is bad for you. TV today is especially bad because everything it seems that is depraved is now considered good, and everything that is good is now considered depraved. Be careful when you watch TV. TV takes your mind and controls it. And that's why you do not burn as many calories. And when you're sitting with your eyes closed, maybe you're praying, maybe you're meditating, but you are controlling the way your brain goes. And it takes more physical power to do that. And you get more enrichment out of it. And that's the lesson today. Man made food, put down your calculator. You don't need to worry about how much you eat. You don't need to really worry about what you eat. Just make sure it's natural and get a variety. The videos are going to get better. I'm going to get smoother. They'll range in time, vary in topic. I have a lot of content. I'm going to review other people's content as it relates to health. God bless. Have a great day. See you in a couple days. Thank you.